beautiful day. The sky is blue, sun is shining, the scenery is just gorgeous. It's the perfect day to stay inside and watch cartoons until the early hours of the morning. Let's go. Whoop. Alright. Let's see what we got.
Who lives in a pineapple under the sea?
No. No.
My little pony.
No.
Like sands through the hourglass, so are the days of our lives.
If only there was a top 10 list of DC superhero cartoons that I could pick from and use as a reference to figure out what I wanted to watch today. Teen Titans was beloved by people all the way across the board. So hype was huge when Cartoon Network announced they were doing a spin-off show called Teen Titans Go. While Teen Titans Go didn't build up to what a lot of people were hoping it would, I found a lot of enjoyment in this series, and I think it works really well. And the fact that there was a theatrical movie kind of says something and testifies to how well the show was actually made. Going from modern day to back in the day, Superfriends defined the Justice League for nearly a decade in people's minds. It started off rather cheesy, introducing some weird characters that, while they were weird at the time, kind of grew to have this following about them, like the Wonder Twins, or Apache Chief specifically. And the show did this interesting thing where it grew up with its audience as well. You could tell in the early seasons it was very much a kid's show, but then by the time we got to the later seasons and near the end of the series, it matured quite a bit. The stories themselves even stand up really well today, and people like Jeff Johns and Paul Dini have credited Superfriends as inspiring a lot of their current and likely future work. But if you haven't given Superfriends a chance yet, and you're kind of apprehensive of touching it because of how cheesy it is, pick one of the later seasons, go in with an open mind, and just enjoy it. It is fun stuff. So we went from Teen Titans to the Justice League, and now we're going back to Teen Titans. Like I said, the original Teen Titans was beloved by, everyone. It was really well done. Each character was really fleshed out, and the show wasn't afraid to address really important issues like racism or depression. And the animation style is just gorgeous. It was quite a bit different from all of the other shows that DC Comics was showing off at the time and shortly before it. It wasn't part of the DC animated universe that started with Batman the Animated Series, but that allowed it to be so much different, so much bigger than it probably could have been. We had this beautiful mixture of Western animation and anime influences, and every single character got a really well thought out story arc in the form of their own season. And by the end of the series, I feel like every character had a good, strong, filled out story arc devoted to them, and the series actually ended off pretty well. So if it's been a while since you've watched Teen Titans, go back and watch Teen Titans. It's really good. It's fun. It's a fun time. Alright, so we went from the Teen Titans to the Justice League to the Teen Titans. Let's go back to Justice League. Justice League action flew kind of under the radar for a lot of people, but there's something to be said for the series. Every episode was a little bit under 15 minutes long, and for the most part they were disconnected, disconjoined. There wasn't like an overarching narrative. But this format, I think, actually expanded the show's potential to talk about a wide variety of subjects. The biggest advantage I think Justice League Action had was that a lot has changed since Justice League Unlimited by the time this show aired. And this show was able to address those changes. Things like the new 52 and new character designs that came with it, or the popularity of John Constantine and Swamp Thing all of a sudden. And specifically, I think it portrayed Wonder Woman really well. Combine that with the over-the-top action pieces that the show was named after, and you have a great series, and one that is worthy of watching, and one that I kind of hope gets a revival on DC Universe. I think would work. Number six was the one I was kind of a little bit worried about, because my choice for number 6 is likely going to be almost everyone else's number 1 pick. Batman the Animated Series was great at presenting Batman in all of his forms and all of his colors. It was great. The early seasons did a lot of Golden Age stuff. Then we have the new Batman Adventures, which I consider to be the same series, that addressed a lot of Silver and Bronze Age ideas. And it laid the groundwork for a lot of modern interpretations, especially places that you wouldn't think it would come from. Like Batman v Superman, I noticed had a lot of animated series in it, as did the Batman Arkham games. But for all that it's done, and for the great importance that it had to starting the DC animated universe and laying all of this groundwork for the character, it's just not my favorite. I don't know what else to say about it. It's just, I have other characters that I prefer. I don't hate Batman. I don't know. It's just not my thing. Number 5 is a very short-lived series that I put at number 5 because I think it had a lot of potential, and it could have gone a lot of really cool places if it just got a little bit more attention when it was first airing. Legion of Superheroes. We didn't see the Legion very often in animation except for a couple of appearances in Justice League or Superman the Animated Series. They had one episode. This series introduced all of these new characters in a really concise, really interesting way through the eyes of a young, relatable Clark Kent. This series had drama, it had danger, it had an overarching story, and because it was aimed at younger kids, it probably had this innocent glow about it, where you could watch it and you could feel good about watching it because there wasn't like anything super detrimental in it. And each of the villains were so interesting and so well thought out that I thought they could have held down a whole series themselves, kind of like what Teen Titans did. The issue, I think, came when the second season came about, and they aged all of the characters up, and they darkened the tone of the series a bit. But it was still really good, and you could tell that it was still the same show at its core. It's just unfortunate that it didn't really last past 2 seasons. I would have liked to see it continue, but I don't think the audience is there for it on the DC Universe streaming service or on other platforms, so I don't know, I just don't have a lot of faith in that. And what can I say about Justice League Unlimited that hasn't been said before? If Endgame was the big celebration of Marvel and all of its characters, then Justice League Unlimited was 2 seasons of that for DC. The core cast was there in all of their glory, and for me at least, this is where characters like the Green Arrow, Black Canary, the Huntress, Dr. Fate, the Question, where these characters really came to life and really came to mean something for me before the live action versions of these characters ever made an appearance. And then there's the factor where it bookended the DC animated universe. That's like 7 cartoon series of animation and story, and Justice League Unlimited bookended all of it. Plus, I'm pretty sure no cartoon had a better opening theme. For me, Young Justice did what Teen Titans set out to do, and did it, but also didn't alienate the rest of the DC universe. We got to see people like the Justice League or the Legion of Doom from a different perspective entirely. We got to see it from the sidekick's point of view. Usually we see it from, the hero's point of view themselves, or quite often actually we see it from the common man's perspective. But what about their partners? We never get to see it from the sidekicks, but we did in Young Justice, and I think that was super cool. It's also really amazing to me how the series built itself up over the episodes. It was very sequential. Things in episode 1 would harken to the end of the series, and after rewatching it, I feel like you get a lot more out of the show. And I mean, Young Justice, it just worked out really well. It's the show that I usually use to get people interested in DC Comics. I've had more than a couple of friends get converted to the fandom because of Young Justice. Also, Superboy and Superman are both voiced by Nolan North, which means he sounds like Nathan Drake, and I love that. That is a fun detail.
I had that. I didn't want to take the chance. As it is, your landing could have destabilized the entire bridge.
I'm never crossing a bridge with you again.
Deal.
One of the big draws, I think, that made the Dark Knight trilogy really interesting was its interpretation of Batman. They kind of forgot everything about Batman previously and rebuilt him for the modern era, and specifically the character of Bruce Wayne. But now we have a problem where the popular interpretation of Batman is so different than how he was interpreted in like Batman the Animated Series or really any other past incarnation of the character. So what do? We make a new cartoon, we call it The Batman. We start by turning on the lights a little bit, and we give Batman more of a positive edge than he's had in the past. You watch the animated series and there's tons of instances of him making jokes about how he's depressed all the time and how the world is dark and gloomy and there's nothing but justice and vengeance. And the Batman kind of turned that around. It gave me the sense that Batman could really exist in a person. It made him relatable to me. As a Superman fan, I hear this constant argument that Batman is better because he's more relatable. There's nothing in Batman I really relate to. He's a brooding, dark, angry, and antisocial billionaire, and I don't see it. I don't see where there is to relate to Batman. But in the Batman, I do. I mean, in the Batman, Bruce Wayne and Batman, he has his personal struggles and his past traumatic experiences. But there's more to him than that. He's not just defined by his parents' death, but people actually want to be around him. Like, for instance, we compare the Robins. We have Robin in Batman the Animated Series, who was so sick of Batman and his crap that he literally just left. But then we have the Batman where we have Robin in there and he's excited to be there. He likes being with Bruce. Add a few small changes to everything, like putting Batgirl in there before Robin, and you have this new, fresh vibe to the show that I really dig. For all this, the Batman takes my number 2 spot on this list. Oh gee, I wonder what my number 1 spot's going to be. Anyone who knows me personally is not going to be surprised by my number 1 pick. It's Superman the Animated Series. For me, it starts with the main cast. Rather than placing Superman and friends in the past like they did with Batman the Animated Series, they put them in this Art Deco, kind of future, kind of present world that, for the most part, I think you could pass off as taking place in the modern era. For Superman, they opted for the modern interpretation where it's Clark first and Superman second. And it shows with instances of Clark doing just as much as Superman to help prevent various crimes and crises across the city.
Actually, this could end up a silver lining in your pocket, couldn't it?
What's that?
Now that the terrorists have your prototype, the Pentagon is undoubtedly going to want you to build a bigger and better version for them. When all is said and done, this could net you a multi-billion-dollar windfall.
Lois, it almost sounds as if your friend here is suggesting I should be glad my suit was stolen. You're very amusing, Mr. Kent, is it? Yes, I'll remember that.
It was consistent, exciting, and it became my favorite interpretation of the character. I'd also argue that Superman was more influential on the DC animated universe than Batman was. I know Batman started it all, but the storylines that carried through Justice League and Justice League Unlimited that really pushed that show were actually continuations of the storylines that took place in Superman. Superman was also the first DC cartoon that I can find, at least if I'm wrong, I'm sure someone will let me know, where you could watch each episode randomly and it was fine, but you were really rewarded for watching it from beginning to end. There was this overarching event that happened, and certain events were just really important and affected all of the other episodes, like the death of Dan Turpin, or the first appearance of Darkseid and his threats to Superman.
Pity. Still, if you won't be my knight, you will be my pawn.
You used me.
I told you once, Superman. If you would not be my knight, you would be my pawn.
That's for Dan Turpin.
Who?
The good man you murdered.
Had I known one human's death would pain you so, I would have killed more.
I mean, I could talk all day about Superman the Animated Series, and I might in a later video, but for now, it's enough to say that Superman the Animated Series is my #1 pick for DC animated cartoons. And with that, I'd like to know what your favorite DC cartoon is. Go ahead and put your thoughts down in the comments below. And as always, until next time, thank you for joining me, have a great day, and remember to always be your best self.